So what we're looking at here is this file called linked. And linked is just a basic HTML page. And I'm going to minimize this. And then here's our result. So we have basic stuff. We've got a couple header tags, paragraph tags, H2s, ULs, OLs, some more paragraphs down here at the bottom. And so it's following the default settings, so we're not getting any color, we're not getting any font changes as far as changing fonts or changing size. So we know how to do the embedded style and we know how to do the inline. So what we are next going to go through are what's called the linked CSS. So what linked CSS does is allow multiple pages to get the formatting from a single file as long as the file is hyperlinked. So what we're going to do is add a hyperlink to the HTML file to pull certain styles to a page that contains this hyperlink. So let's take a look at what we've got in our folder here. So we have a file called styles.css. Notice it's a different file extension. Let's go ahead and open it up. We want it to open up in Notepad, so I'm just going to right click and force it to open in Notepad. Alright, so here we should be able to recognize what we're looking at here. We have different things going on. Remember, this is a selector, and then everything here is what is being changed. So we're changing some fonts, some colors, we're applying some different changes to H1s, to paragraphs. There's some other things here that you're not necessarily going to see reflected in this document, but most of these you're going to be familiar with. So OL, ordered list, P for the paragraph tag. So what we need to do is we need to tell this HTML file to talk to the CSS file and the CSS file to talk to our web browser. And it's very simple to do. So inside that folder, I gave you a file called link code, and it's a text document just so you don't have to type it up. So I'm going to open this up. It's going to default into Notepad, and this is the line we're going to do. So a couple of things I want to explain to you. We need to create the link, so it's not an ahref, it's a little bit different, and then we're telling it the relation of what kind of file it is, and it's a style sheet, okay, that's in quotes, and then we put the href over here, and we tell it to communicate with whatever the file is. It just so happens that the file I gave you is called styles, and it's a CSS file. This is usually the name that we name our styles page, but you can name it whatever you want. As long as it's a CSS page, we can get it to talk to each other. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this line, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go to my Notepad, and now I have to be careful where I put it. Okay, it goes in the head section. We do not create style tags. We're just going to Control-V paste that line in there. Okay, now I'm going to save my Notepad, and then I'm going to return back to my browser, which is right here, and I'm going to refresh, and you'll see, now I did some hideous formatting here just so you could see what's going on. Okay, so it pulled all of that stuff, and all of that stuff that I'm talking about is this stuff. Okay, so it used Georgia font, but my H1 goes to an Arial font. That's why you see that here. Okay, so let me just kind of pull this over and you can look at what changes. Then we have this is our ordered list items, and I set those up to have italic font with a certain color. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have another page talk to the same thing. Okay, so just so you can understand how this really works. So I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to take another recipe page. This one is apple tort, it's called AT. So I'm going to open that up in Notepad. There we go. I'm going to paste that same link. I still have it copied to my clipboard, so I can Control-V and File, Save. And now when I load the at.html file in my browser, so find the file, here we go. There's the apple tort, here's the red velvet. So the magic in external or linked CSS is this. Okay, so we can see what color, we're going to go back. We have a lot of files open here. We can go back to the styles page. Let's make a simple identifiable change by changing the background color. Okay, so what you're looking at here are hexadecimal colors. I'm going to change this to just a simple, I'm going to put in yellow. I'm going to save this, and what's going to happen is because these two HTML files, at.html and link.html, are linked to this style CSS, now I have a change when I Control S my CSS file, my styles file, and I go to my browser and I F5, both of these pages, when they're refreshed, now pick up the color. So that is why we do an external style sheet. This is small scale, okay? I know that yellow is pretty hideous, so I'm going to minimize that so we don't have to stare at it. So if you think about it large scale, if I have 500 recipes and I want them all to look the same, all I have to do is have that hyperlink in every single page, and then it's going to pull any changes I make. So if I decide, you know, I don't really want yellow, I want gray, I make the change only in the external CSS file and save it. And then when I go back to my browser and then wherever it is and I F5 refresh, now I've got gray. As long as they're refreshed, it picks it up on both pages. So the links external file is the way that most websites are using CSS because it is a simple change made in one document and it automatically gets pushed out to all the other pages very easily with just one line of code. Okay, so again, all the other code, let me explain one more thing here. Notice this page doesn't have any HTML, okay? It is just selector, property and value changes, selector, property and value changes. And when you create a CSS page, you have to force the file extension. So when I go to File, Save As, when this page was created, I had to force the .css. Okay? If I don't force the file extension, it's going to be a text file, which doesn't work. If I put .htm, it's an HTML file. So I have to force the file extension to whatever. So if I'm going to name this thing my styles or whatever the file name is, just to show you another example, I would put .css. That has to be in there. And that's how you do externally linked CSS pages.